Hello, everyone. It's Annette. This is In the Know 360, bringing you unfiltered stories, game, and exclusive drops from the next wave of stars. And now you're locked into In the Know 360, where real conversations meet raw talent. Let's go. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to In the Know 360, show hosted by me, Annette, the warm-hearted warrior diva. This show gives you insights on the journeys of high-achieving business owners and creative artists, the importance of building a strong community of like-minded individuals on the road to greater success. And this evening, I am honored and have the pleasure of welcoming Miss Goddess NewWay Jenkins. Yay!
I am honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, ma'am. And I know you're a busy woman. I really, really appreciate you. Seriously, like my hat goes off to you with all the hats that you wear. My goodness. Well, with that being said, I'm going to hand the mic to you so you can introduce yourself and, yeah, and everything about you. I'm so excited.
I am so well. I, I guess I'll start by my name is Goddess Johnson, and I am definitely a person that wears a lot of hats, and I'm very proud of all of the hats that I do wear because they all came through definitely going through some obstacles, some trials, some tribulations, but I love to say the blessings have been greater than the sacrifices. I think that's fair to say. I can start with my newest accomplishment. Recently, I just came back from Chicago, Illinois. I am originally from Chicago, Illinois, and it was very special to me. I just received the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award, and that was very amazing, especially to have that happen in Chicago. And I guess that's a good way to kind of talk about who I am, and you can jump in because it's a lot to me.
Right?
If you wanna, if you want me to start from the beginning, because there's a lot of components to who I am. So I guess if there's specifics, just jump in and then let me know, and I can elaborate a little bit more. We can start from the beginning. Coming from the south side of Chicago, I was actually from Parkway Gardens, which is located on 63rd and King Drive. Today, a lot of people know it as O Block. I was born to my mother. She had four children. I was one of four. I was the second to the oldest child. And typical, my mom was a single parent. Um, Knowing now, didn't know then. Back then, I just knew my mom was different than other moms. You know what I'm saying? But my mom did suffer from mental illness and also a drug addiction. My mom was actually went to prison when I was 7 years old for capital murder. And that left me and my brothers and sisters at this point, um, kind of in the system, you can say. We didn't go directly in the system because my biological father, he was not around until after my mom went to prison. A lot of times when that happens, the kids, they ended up, we get checks. So I believe, for him, that was the only reason that he came around because he was very abusive, and which led to us being taken away from him and my father later going to prison as well for sexual assault against myself and other related crimes that he had committed. So, we went into the system, at an early age. Everything really you can think about from the stereotypes you hear about that we kind of went through, in and out of different placements, never being physically adopted, and just a lot of physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, which kind of led to once I was at the age of 12, kind of, I felt like I was better off on the street. Like this wasn't, if I was going to get treated like this, I was better off on my own. And that's what kind of led to me doing just that, running away, being on the streets, turning to gangs because at that age, not having my mom, who was one of the most important person in my life, regardless, I would say my mother. But when she went to prison, I had no contact with her. So on top of that, I had no way of talking with her, communicating with her, or anything like that because she had refused to because she felt like going to prison, she had failed us, and the different things we were going through, she had a lot of guilt. So I had a lot of anger. So with anger came a feeling of abandonment, which led to, for me, that was something that I saw was a family, was the gang, was somewhere. They were there. They were there to, I could be tough. You know what I'm saying? I had, people taking things from me from an early age, my innocence to just, I wanted to be in control. So that's what it was for me. And it allowed me to reunite with my brothers because we had been separated, and kind of, that was our lifestyle, and that's what we did until um after a very unfortunate incident which led my brothers, due to gang related activity and other crimes that were committed, it led to them receiving life sentences as juveniles. One got life and the other one got 44 years. So for me, losing them, that was the only family I had at the time, you know what I'm saying? So not being in school because the last grade I was in was the sixth when I had dropped out of school. And so now here I was, fast forward, and now almost supposed to be a sophomore in high school, and I had no education and my brothers were gone. So then it was like, what am I to do? So that's when I kind of decided to reach back out to the caseworker, get back into the system so that I can like do something with myself because you know what I'm saying? To be honest, I didn't want to end up, in jail, and like that was something that I didn't want because it's like my whole family, that was the legacy that we had. So it's like, for me, I guess you could say I got it together. I was able to test enough to be able to go to school, as went right in as a junior actually, and I actually went to school during the summer. I actually ended up graduating early and going into the military. I guess you could say that that was the next gang I joined, but for a different reason. For me, not having no family, not having any background, to me, honestly, and I tell people I went into the military because I knew it was going to be, I was going to have a guaranteed a place to stay. And at the time, I knew it was going to pay for my schooling, but it taught me so much more, and it allowed me to kind of have that discipline and find that path that I wanted to do, which was medical. And I was able to do just that. I was the first to graduate high school, of course, join the military, go to college, and ended up doing that. And it was something that I kind of embraced because even though from the early age I always had to be the one to help, but I liked helping, so being a nurse and doing that, that's what I love to do. And I had at this point started my own family. I was a mom, I had a son, and I was working and I was doing a career I loved. I had got out the service and I still was able to work in the medical field as a nurse, and I loved it, and I had my sister. She was with me and she had followed in my footsteps, and I kind of, was on my way, or so I thought. And, I went to work like any other day, and once I worked 7 at night to 7 in the morning, I ended up getting off work, and then, my life was tragically impacted and changed due to a car accident. And after waking up from being in a coma and then coming to and had been in that for over 7 months, to be told, and I'm lying there and I have no way of responding, that this had happened and I was left blind and I would never see again, and I had lost the most important person that I had, and that was my sister and my niece. And for me, it was devastating to me because it's like there was that moment where you can't respond, but I felt like it was some type of joke. Like I didn't know what was worse, you know what I'm saying? So to have to spend the next 2.5 years to go through rehabilitation to learn how to walk again, have speech therapy, all these trainings. But when it came to my vision, there was nothing. And, now my son was 6 at the time of this incident, and now he was 8.5. And I can't even explain to him coming home, why I can't even walk from the car to the door without help. And that was the time in my life that I felt like I wish I would have died. It was like I was angry, like I didn't want this. And I kind of gave up on living, and I tried to take my life and was unsuccessful. And I didn't want to live because I felt like I didn't want to be somebody that my son had to take care of. I wanted to take care of him. I wanted to be a mom. And it took my son coming in my room one day and, putting his hand on my knee and telling me, Mom, I'll help you. And it was in that moment I was reminded of the feeling of what it felt like not to have my mom present, what it felt like to feel that emptiness, and I immediately knew that I did not want that. So that kind of began my reason to fight. And that's what I did. It was a process. It took me through a lot to have to learn how to live my life without sight. Um, Even
Mm,
allowing myself to become a victim of, just verbal abuse and different types of physical abuse from, my kid's father that I was with at the time. Because for me, it was like I was made to feel like I was not capable of anymore because a lot of things I couldn't do. But it didn't allow me to give up. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
I tried twice as hard to be able to learn this life. It led me to Florida. It led me to finding out about Baskin Palmer Eye Institute, which was in Miami, Florida. It was one of the number one eye hospitals in the U.S.,
mm,
which started me on a journey to have surgeries, nothing ever promising the restoration of my sight, but just doing different trials because I didn't want to accept that this was going to be for the rest of my life. But going to Florida also introduced me to visual rehabilitation therapy, which is going to school. There were schools for the blind, which I learned skills, technology, mobility training, how to travel with the cane, Braille,
mm,
how to identify things. And it's like my whole world opened up. I was able to go back to school, go back to college, and obtain a second degree that I was proud of because I obtained that master's degree while being totally blind. And I was able to teach children, men, women, older, elderly blind, different types of skills to live an independent life without sight. I now became a teacher to help. But one thing I noticed it was working with the younger ones, the younger young men and young women, it was a lack of confidence. There were things that they didn't want to do, like going to proms and things like that because they felt they were blind. And
mm,
I was like, no, like, that was something I didn't stand for because I was like, no matter what, I still had my confidence. I
mhm,
still didn't feel like it was nothing I couldn't do. So this was in 2019. I went to a conference that's held every year. It's a National Federation of the Blind. It's in a different state every year. And it brings together so many different people in the blind and visually impaired community. And we have lawyers, we have doctors, we
mm,
you name it. And I was just blown away. And I met this young lady who had an organization that had a pageant for blind women.
mm.
So I was like, there's a pageant for women like
Wow.
who are blind. Yeah, I was like, it's like for me, I was like, now believe regardless of popular demand that I was never the like fashion diva type queen. I was your t-shirt and gym shoe girl. Okay. So
Mhm.
got it. But what I found that I kind of stepped out and embraced it because of what it represented, right? I wanted to show a different. So when she approached me about it, I was like, okay, let me work behind the scenes. So I started off volunteering, helping on the committee. And then in 2022, I decided to enter the pageant because, again, I worked a lot with youth from all
Mm,
different backgrounds, and with secretly becoming someone who felt that I wasn't worth, being treated a certain way because I was blind. In a way, it was me healing through that. You get what I'm saying? So
mhm,
I entered the pageant in 2022 and I won. And I was
mm,
like, they called my name. It was like one of them moments where you like everything pauses and you like, okay, this is
mhm,
happening. And during that time, it was like I wanted people to know that even though I was blind, and I wanted to use my platform, because when you win a pageant, you have a platform that you have to stand for.
mm,
And a lot of people didn't know my story. They didn't know I was someone who was from where I came from, that I once was in a gang, that I once was a person that was not liked and not a great person. But then I was someone who overcame that and became blind. But I wanted them to see that I could still do, and I could be able to do what I wanted to do. I just did things a different way.
mhm,
And during that journey, when I first won the pageant, I was able to speak at the Ultimate Women's Expo in New Jersey. And during that time, I was able to meet Fantasia. She came on as she was the keynote speaker. And I remember meeting her and telling my story, and her being brought to tears, and her telling me that I need to continue to tell my story everywhere that I go, because
mm,
it's going to change lives. And to hear that from someone that I looked at as a pillar of strength through her music, I was like, okay. And during my reign as a title holder, I kind of broke barriers. I traveled all over nationally, and I became a credible messenger mentor, where I was able, even as a beauty pageant title holder, I was able to travel throughout the US and go overseas, as a credible messenger mentor, traveling with other former gang members, other former members in society who were once looked at as, problems, and now are doing some remarkable things and actually preventing, gun violence, preventing young people being incarcerated young due to being products of their environment, being able to use boxing as a way to defend and take them on roads to where they're in championships. And we're in documentaries with Floyd Mayweather, and meeting people like Hector Camacho Jr. And these are all kids that are from the circumstances that weren't good, and they were
mm,
once, and it took people like Coach Ruben Saldana to join together and to bring people together to really give that real message and show a different way. And I made history with becoming the first ever legally blind nationally certified credible messenger during that year. I also became the U.S. ambassador for the blind and visually impaired during that reign. I got to go over to Liberia and Cameroon and bring different resources to be able to help um,
mm,
way of living, and also be able to provide necessary things like canes, adaptive aids, technology. We had laptops we were able to take over there, for to help with the people like myself who were legally blind. And so that was very empowering for me. And being able to do that in spite of being blind, being able to later on start entering pageants that were never won by someone who was blind. And I was happy I won 2023 Miss Black America Elegant Diva. I won 2024 Miss Crown of America South Florida. And when I won Top Most Influential Woman of 2023 and 24 with 180 Life Celebrity Magazine, all of these were accomplishments because there were youth that were empowered. There were
mm,
young men who were blind. There were people who were from domestic violence, people who were from their parents being incarcerated. There been, and all of these people I would have in my emails. And that's when I started doing my podcast, when I won my first title. And I wanted to bring stories because I was speaking on stages, meeting celebrities, but I had unsung heroes that no one knew their story. And
mm,
getting these accomplishments, that when I stood on October 10th in 2023, and Mayor Jerry Deming granted me my own day in Orlando, I was like blown away, because it's like looking back over my life and now to receive these type of moments. I remember being told that I would never be nothing but a piece of, like
mm,
of my family, and end up in prison. And here I was winning titles and getting
mm,
proclamations and making history. And behind the walls along the way, I lost a brother to suicide.
mm,
I lost, those were my family. That's all
mhm,
I had. I still have a brother who's living, who still have, he's the one that got the 44 years, but he's able to tell me, I'm proud of you. You know what I'm saying? It give him hope. He's been able to graduate, get a GED. He's been able to get trades, even though they've told him he'll be in there for the next 44 years of his life. It's giving him a will to do that. And so for me, um, I all I wanted to do was show that even though it took my physical sight, I still had a vision. And then I wanted to show that you don't have to be separated. You shouldn't look at people for what's on the outside. Everybody got a story. And
mhm,
modeling, and being able to model in, fashion weeks in Miami and Orlando, and modeling in one of the very first ever fashion shows that included sighted and blind women. And now making history myself, on August the 2nd, I debuted the very first ever as a legally blind designer, my own fashion line, which is my Crowned in Color collection under Mystique Fashions, which is a line that I wanted to create with the help of my king. And we sat down and using a vision, and through his help being able to birth a line that shows inclusiveness. It allows our language of Braille and print to come together, and it's an inspirational active wear with acclamations and statements of purpose, and active wear and gowns. And I'm honored to have done that, because that led me to be able to grace like LA Fashion Week, debuting as the very first ever legally blind designer to debut a collection that will be modeled by all different models from all different abilities. And none of this would have been possible if I would have gave up,
mm,
gave in to what people said about me, even beyond the sight loss. I didn't stop. So for me, as I started off in the beginning, and saying, to go back to the city where I came from, the city that was filled with the legacy of my family being murderers and being just waste of life, basically, but to rewrite the narrative, to be able to show that I came from a place that it counted me out, but I was able to rise from that, to rise from losing my sight to being totally blind for 13 years. I have a 14-year-old daughter. So only I was never supposed to see her, and being able to be granted after I've had over 44 minor eye operations, and I've had 3 cornea transplants.
mm,
Last transplant, they were able to restore my tunnel vision. And at the time, I misspoke. I'm sorry, my daughter was 12, turning 13. And when I had that procedure, and when I was able to see for the first time, when they took that bandage off and I could see her, and I was never supposed to see her, and I could see my son again, who I hadn't seen since he was
mm,
6. I told God, and this is my belief, that I would never ever complain. I would continue to tell my story, because if it's one thing about my story, I don't care what your belief is to tell you that I serve a God that can use anybody. And
mm,
he gave me grace and he gave me mercy, because I wasn't a great person, that I wasn't. I did a lot of things that I wasn't proud of, because of the fact of how life handed me. And I just at one point didn't care, because I felt like, what was the point? But I am honored to say that I know what it feels like to have went through all this. I could tell a person that whether I've had vision, I've had no vision, but I tell people this the greatest thing that ever happened to me. It is, because it's a lot of things in this world I don't want to see.
Mm,
I love the vision that I have because I get to see from the inside, and it allowed me to be fearless, Nat.
mm,
I fear nothing and no one. So I can boldly get on stage and talk about some of the most hardest times in my life. But I know
mm,
somebody in that audience gonna need to hear it. And it's allowed me to be bold at everything I do and be able to be unapologetically me. So when people meet me and they say, "Oh, you're black," "Oh, I'm sorry," I'll be like, "Don't be." You know what I'm saying? I love my who I am. I love what I've had to go through. I wouldn't change it, because if I would change any of these things, I wouldn't be who I am today. So when you ask me who is Goddess, that's who I am.
mm. So you got me tearing up here. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for wow. I don't know where to start. I've been writing a little bit of notes here. But first, I just wanted to say thank you for that introduction and telling your story because, you know, and I was telling my daughter earlier, I said, sometimes what you think, right, in school, you may not want to go. You may feel like your peers aren't really communicating with you,
Right.
but you have to seek God and know that you're the only one in yourself and your thoughts, right? Because when you have a thought, it depends on where it goes, whether it's positive or negative, and that thought becomes feelings, and then the feelings evoke emotions, and then your emotions are the reaction to the feeling. And man, I'm lost for words because um I can't even imagine. You know what I mean? Like, just it just brings me chills to. I know we kind of talked offline before this
Mhm.
conversation, and a lot of people are just so worried about the minutia here in this world. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Hmm.
When there's just a lot of things going on that we're just not grateful for. You know,
Yeah.
like waking up.
Yes. Well,
I mean,
that's so true, and I'm telling you, and I speak for a living. You know, I'm definitely honored to be as a motivational speaker, and I love going in. I love speaking to youth because I always remind them, you don't want to wait until something happens like how it happens for me. You
mhm,
don't know how much you should be thankful to get up in the morning and be able to see your face.
yeah.
Just that one little thing, be able to look at yourself in the mirror, be able to look at the grass, look at the
Yeah.
sun. Do you, like, I tell them, I didn't know what I looked like
Mm,
for years. 4 years. I had no idea.
mm,
A mom, you're a mother. I
mm,
tell, be grateful. Be grateful.
yeah.
Because to have a child growing inside of you, you feeling it, and when they come out,
Mhm,
you see them. I never ever said that it was easy. I would never say that. But it was my cross that I had to bear. And I know why. Because I had to be able to really reach people and let them understand. Even though I struggle, but you got to be thankful for the little things, man. You do.
yeah. Yes. We really do. It looks like Mikey P. Hi, Mikey P. Well, he said, "What's good? Just wanted to tap in, say hello, and he'll try to tap back in later." We also have some folks on Instagram land here. Thanks for joining, King. Celebrity interviewer. I said it. He said, "Much respect to your guests, but and you too, Queen." RIP says, "Oh my God, Goddess Jenkins, you're truly God sent and absolutely an extraordinary Black Queen salute.
Thank you.
Uh, Mr. Brock, greetings, sir. Thank you for joining everybody.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yes, and I just want to put salute you for being also a soldier, and it's near and dear to my heart because I'm a veteran as well, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're a soldier too, so you definitely understand the whole drill. that
Never forget. Okay.
Right, and man, let's move on because you said Ebola. Oh, by the way, I don't want to forget Mr. Melvin Farmer. I just wanted to salute him. Thank you for introducing me to Miss Goddess here.
Yes.
And let's go ahead and gosh, I have a lot of questions. So you answered most of them though.
Okay.
So that's a good thing. Let's go. Let's move to fashion meets accessibility,
Yeah.
right? So Mystique Fashions and Crown and Color are changing how you see fashion, how we see fashion rather. What inspired you to create tactile braille inspired clothing?
Okay. So let me tell y'all, I don't play about how I look when I go out, okay?
I know that's right.
That's where I turn into a diva. And even though I'm born from Chicago, I ended up going to Houston. So I love bling. I always loved bling. I always loved shiny. I felt like if I can't see you, you gonna see me. Okay. So I was the girl in my community being blind. I like my cane. I wanted my cane to be blinged out with rhinestones.
Mhm,
I want my shoes. I just love sparkles. But what I did not like is when I go in the clothing store, I don't always want to have to get someone to tell me what this is, what this says. You get what I'm saying? And
mhm.
we learn a skill, which is Braille, which is a language that we're able to read and know what things are. So coming into the fashion world, being a model, who I'm modeling, of course, with sighted designers, being blind, and I love fashion. And I was like, okay, there's a way that you're able to still have this, but I can make it to where the sighted world can be brought into our world and we can have clothing that we can be able to read. We can be able to know what we're wearing if we want to know what size. And I could use that with Braille. And then my love of shine and bling rhinestones are very tactile, and puff paint is very tactile. So for someone who's in my community and we're using Braille, it's easy to feel. So I was like, okay. And then even if you're not blind and you're visually impaired, because it's rhinestones and it's iridescent and it's different colors, depending on different eye conditions, can see things better, different colors. So I took my knowledge of all and incorporated it into my line.
Oh wow. That's you mentioned tactile because I think that also can translate to um people with or even children like for instance
Yes,
autistic, and
yes.
so that helps with the sensory.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I'm saying this because my middle child is has autism, so he loves like the whole tactile things, and it helps. Like remember when the spinners was like a hot
Yeah,
thing. He would just like keep spinning that spinner, and it's just it's really good because like a lot of things that you're mentioning is trans it could be translated into other
absolutely.
avenues.
Yes. And that's what it was. That's why my line, even though I am legally blind, is accessible for people of different abilities as well. And I kept that because being a vocal rehabilitation therapist, a lot of my students that I taught were blind, deaf blind, and autistic. So my background in education is in all. So this way I use art, and it was a way of using art and using the different elements to be able to make it inclusive for different abilities. So that's why LA Fashion Closet, when they're modeling, I have models who represent all those different abilities that I just mentioned. And that's what's empowering for me.
Wow. And speaking about fashion, I do know that celebrity interviewer. I said I think you should get with him because he also interviews a lot of queens out here with
Okay.
disabilities and not just queens but kings as well. And I'm very. He's into the whole fashion thing too, by the
Okay.
way. There's more to him, but I thought I'd throw that out there. Um,
Get at Miss Annette and reach out to me.
Right. So you heard it, okay? King, make sure you reach out to her. Um, and with that being said, so if you could break down, I guess, because a lot of folks are uneducated when it comes to being blind or legally, like there's
Sure.
different levels. Do
Yes.
you mind breaking it down for the
No,
audience and then
no.
also like how I guess in the whole start of this designer venture, how did you like what came first, like the chicken or the egg type of thing? Can you
Okay.
like explain a little bit?
Yeah, of course. And that's a great question. And one thing I always say, it's so easy for me to relate and break things down because I wouldn't have known half of it if this wouldn't have happened to me. So I always keep that at the forefront because people are always like, it's so easy to talk to you, but I don't get offended because I didn't know either. You know what I mean? So when of course, through me becoming blind, so let me speak on that first. There are over 46 different eye conditions that a person can be considered legally blind. If you have to wear corrective lenses and it's over a certain percentage, you can be considered legally blind, but that doesn't mean that you can't drive or things of that nature. So, for instance, my mobility instructor, which was the lady who taught me how to use a cane is a tool that people use who are blind to navigate when they're walking and traveling. She was legally blind. She had nystagmus, which is an eye condition that causes her eyes to shake.
Mm,
And she was albino. So, because of having albinism, that right there, that made her legally blind. So, it was real funny to the outside world because try seeing someone having a cane and teaching someone a cane and then folding it up and getting in their car and driving. You see what I'm saying?
mm,
So, there are different eye conditions. So you have people that are totally blind, and it is a misconception that when you're totally blind, you see black. I was totally blind for 13 years and I saw white 24/7.
mm,
I wasn't black. You have people that have a condition, for instance, called retinitis pigmentosa. That means they have no tunnel vision. They can't see out the center of their eye, but they have peripheral.
mm,
So then you have someone who is considered visually impaired. They may just have it to where they had slight case of, let's say, cataract, and it caused it to be blurry, and then they got it removed and it's still a little blurry, but they're able to see if they magnify it. So you have softwares that make things enlarge or changes the color contrast. Like now my computer screen, if you look at my computer, because now I would be considered visually impaired because I have some vision. So I use a software. If you look at my computer screen, it's the background is black instead of white, and my letters are yellow, and I can enlarge it. So there are different variations for someone to be labeled legally blind, but that doesn't mean just because someone says I'm legally blind, they can't see anything. It's just different conditions. And of course, my blindness came first, and then that's actually what sparked me to do the other endeavors, which led me into fashion. And because I work with so much with the blind community and the sighted community, I wanted to design a way to bring it together, my love of fashion and both worlds. And I feel you do that through fashion and music. And I can't sing, so I chose fashion.
Well, hey, I love the outfits that I that I see, like the gowns.
Yeah.
Look, yeah, it's really interesting. I guess what I was most intrigued about was, you're educating me this evening. I'm most intrigued about the tags. On, like you were saying, the braille tags and how to differentiate. I the this is the this is the thing. I'm just like trying to figure out. Okay, to know what size to wear, like what fits you. You get what I mean? Like, I guess that's what I was trying
So,
to get at. Like, how do you know the size of clothing,
mhm.
and then start from there? I guess is what I'm
Okay,
saying.
that's a good question. So that no, that's perfect. Great question. So I use technology is our life, number one. There's
Hmm.
the app for everything. And so we use apps and we also use what we call adaptive aids. So for instance, sizes. So myself, of course, I know my size that I wear. So and then with modeling, you have to always get your measurements and sizes. But to answer your question, we have certain things. For instance, meta glasses. Meta glasses are glasses that we wear that have AI intelligence in them. So, or there's a camera where I can utilize a service called IRA, and it's a person just like yourself that will come on, and through that camera in the lens they're able to see what I'm seeing,
Hmm.
so they can describe to me what I'm seeing. I can use a live person. I use apps such as CNAI, Be My Eyes. I use gadgets. Once I identify, okay, this is a small, medium, large for my clothing. If I know you need a small and I'm doing, let's say, a small gown on my tag, inside the same where visually you would go and look at the tag, I braille it. So
Hmm.
they'll fill the braille with it'll be with rhinestones. And if they're visually impaired with the rhinestones, they're able to have that enough vision to make it out, but they can use the tool, a technique of braille to read it. And then for material for gowns for the different silk if it's shiny, of course I use adaptive aids. I feel, I touch, and then I know what I need. And so basically I use a lot of technology adaptive aids. And then of course too, I have, my partner. He's one of my lead designers who he's sighted. And then I have designers who are totally blind, that do different things. So we kind of all work hand in hand together when it comes to certain bringing certain pieces together for the look that I want.
Oh, wow. Do you, I guess, do you start off also like with just tailor made, or like, do you get what I'm saying? Like getting your size, and how, for instance, you go into Victoria's Secrets and you're
Mm-hmm.
getting a size of your,
Yeah.
bra, whatever. Um, so I guess a person, say for instance, that had a catastrophe
Mm-hmm.
and needed to start, right, or wanting to not even be into the whole design thing, but just knowing how to go shopping or knowing how to maneuver. What
Yeah.
would you recommend?
I would definitely recommend going to a independent living skills school, whether it's a lighthouse or a school for the blind, to go through the training, the voc rehabilitation training first, because you learn all of those fundamentals first.
Mm,
Once you get that, and then I honestly, what I did was I honestly just got thrown out there because
mm,
pageantry and just being in fashion shows. I was blessed to work with world renowned model coaches like Jeannie Ferguson out of New York, who is sighted, and Tip Scott, who is a designer, and they had worked with women who were blind and visually impaired. So I kind of like lucked up there because my first encounter was with people who were already a little bit familiar. But still, I mentor. I believe in mentorship, reaching out and doing the research with designers, see if you can mentor with them and kind of, shadow and develop, which is what I did. I was in
mm,
a fashion shows to learn how it goes, to talk with the designers, to kind of learn. And then I started just in my head, I knew the designs that I wanted. I knew what I wanted to represent. So I planned, and when it was time, I knew it was the time to execute when I had all the elements together.
And does the same go for folks that just want to help or get into the field to help, the blind and maybe getting into that whole designer thing as
Yes,
well?
and every we have a lot. There's resources in every city,
Mm,
every state. Even if you're sighted, you can always even 411 information or just Google your local commission for the blind, Lighthouse Center for the Blind,
mhm,
National Federation of the Blind is the one that's the easiest. You can get in contact. You can be able to, volunteer, mentor, learn different skills. I have a lot of fully sighted men and women who I teach Braille on through Zoom on a class globally. So,
wow.
it's and I have two interns right now. I'll be meeting next week, who are remote from Massachusetts, and they reached out to me in college and they want to intern. They're sighted and they want to help be involved to learn, and they're studying disability studies and they wanted to learn Braille. And I have another young lady who's a designer, and when she saw in design school, she wanted to know they do internships. I said sure. So it's so many different ways that you can still assist or help, even in whether you're sighted or you have a different ability.
Mm,
Work with a lot of artists, recorded artists, singers, other models, because even if they have a fashion line or a recording label or a book, if they want their items to be accessible and to be able to reach a whole nother community, they reach out to me, and that's the service that I offer. We Braille materials. We'll come up and design Braille outfit if you have a line. So my ultimate goal, it's not about the money. It's about the message. It's about to promote diversity and inclusion, because at the end of the day, I learned that that's what it's about. That's the legacy I'm trying to leave behind.
mm-hmm. That you really opened me up to a different world here. I mean, I'm just thinking, okay, if I'm a singer and I need a layout of my design clothing, I mean, I don't know of any of the blind singers. I mean, I'm sure there's out a bunch of different
Yeah,
like phenomenal
yeah. That and they're
our
all.
artists out here, right? That and this is great because this really opens the world up to different things,
And you
you
touched
know?
something right there in that, because of, and that's what I've done. So earlier I shared what gets to nowadays is fashion and music. I don't care if you're young or old. So with me doing this, one of the artists on LA Fashion Week that I am coming out to, he's legally blind and he's a rapper and he's from Baytown, Texas, and he's amazing. And
Mhm.
just that, I have his song that's going around and people are like, wow, but I know phenomenal singers, blind producers, phenomenal on my documentary. Naquilla Wright Prevost, phenomenal singer, totally blind. And so this allows me to introduce the world as well to so many different talents, because like just like you said, but there is, and that led to I'm having an event next year. It's going to be in January. It's our Blind Music Awards, and I
Mm,
want to show people, it's going to highlight the sighted and the blind musical artists, rapper. They're going to be presented with awards, and so people are able to see the amazing, it's people
yeah,
out here, and I have artists who are deaf, blind. It's just truly amazing because it allows people to see that you should never, anyway, you shouldn't even judge a person for whatever they have a disability, because just because a person is different
right,
doesn't mean they're not able or capable to do things. But society doesn't depict those depictions of people when they have these different abilities or disabilities in that light. So that's what I wanted to change. If you were going to know somebody who was blind, when you saw me, it wasn't going to be like, oh, what? when you read about Goddess, it's not gonna be like, oh, she blind. It's gonna be like, dang, she did all that and she blind. Exactly. That's what I'm.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, you see, I'm like, exactly. I'm so excited. Look, um, going back to the celebrity interviewer, I said it. He said, "Thank you. It would be my honor. It's already done. She's welcome to walk my runway and display her style." By the way, he's in Chi-Town too, and
Oh,
he has yeah. So,
my
look, I was on his show, right? I mean, and I remember let's what I he's probably going to get on me on my case with he has a singer that artist a rap artist that was on his show, and he's also disabled, so like I'm just like blown, you know what I mean? Here we are, the sighted people, I guess. I'm learning all these acronyms, the lingo,
because
and
that's
like we're here complaining about the minuscule things, anyway. But I'm really excited about you going on his show,
of
and
course.
meeting hit the folks that has been on his show. It's
Yeah.
gonna be super awesome.
And
Well,
what I tell people, and I just want to say what you're saying. It's not like I tell people. I openly say I wouldn't have known if this wouldn't have happened. And I be transparent enough to say just because you don't know doesn't make you know what I mean? Only thing I want people to take away from it is first of all, be grateful and blessed for the little things because nothing in life is that serious. You get what I'm saying? Not that serious enough because it could be worse. You know what I'm saying? But also, too, nothing is impossible. And faith can move mountains. And that's what I be trying to let people know.
amen. That's for sure. Oh wow. Let's move on to social impact, gun violence, and youth empowerment. Right.
Yes.
So gun violence, right, doesn't start with guns. It starts with pain.
Yes.
What pain are our young people carrying that's being ignored?
The pain of not being heard. You know, you have to think of the dynamic a lot of times, and it hasn't changed since when I was young. You know, that's a very easy question for me to answer because it's a shame it's still the same answer today. You know, when you're already growing up in a situation where every day it seems hopeless. You know, a lot of times either it's a one parent in a house working two, three jobs where you're left as a kid to raise yourself. You get what
Mhm.
I'm saying? A lot of times they dealing with you're a kid having to be having adult responsibilities and then trying to go to school and sometimes not even having what you need. These kids made different nowadays. You if you don't have the right look, it's either you gonna get talked about because you ain't got, or you gonna have to earn your name. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times it's just not feeling heard, not no one noticing that you're in pain. A lot of times when they say that bully a lot of times is that bully because they're being bullied at home. Somebody's hitting on them, somebody's messing with them. It's trauma. It's always the trauma that's never seen, which turns into anger, which fuels pain, which fuels acceptance. And a lot
Mm,
of parents ain't listening, ain't in the home, not because they don't want to, but if it's two people in the home, which a lot of times that's not the dynamic. Is no one outside you could really talk to. If you're a man, young man growing up, you gotta be tough. You can't be weak. You can't be crying. You're not taught to do that. So it's like a lot of times the people that are listening, even the churches. I remember a lot of they want to judge. They're not helping. And a lot of times, the only people that are listening is the gangs. Is them
mm,
on. They gonna give you the money, so you ain't gotta be looking. You know what I'm saying? They gonna look out sometimes, and they gonna be the ones to protect. But at the end of the day, that's why they're the ones that's able to show a different way on today. You know what I'm saying? So that's my answer to it.
mm. Yeah, that is so true because, attention goes where attention is heard. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you on that.
Yep.
Um, what would real gun violence prevention look like if it was centered healing over policing?
real gun violence is real people out there telling real stories, getting in these streets, in these housing developments, going here, really sharing the real about it. Not just going in, busting in one to like, no, but really going in, sharing the stories, not just the stories of what got us in it, but also the short stories of the victims, the families. I never killed nobody. I never shot nobody. But I had a threat on my life because of the crimes my family did. I
Mm.
was never supposed to go back to Chicago because I was marked that they were going to kill me because my mother killed their family. I was never supposed to go to Maryland because of my brother killing a rival family. But I went back to these places because at the end of the day, it was important for people to know I'm going to tell my story, but I don't have a problem saying I never condoned anything that my brother, none of them did. I never condoned it. I never said they needed to be out. But I will tell the story because trauma fuels trauma.
Mm.
And when you don't find out, my brother wasn't diagnosed with these mental health stuff till he was behind bars. Nobody talks about mental health. You don't hear about that
Mhm.
type of stuff. You're not taught to go talk to a counselor. That's for white people.
Right.
That's what they tell you. You don't do that. You get what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
that's what it is really getting out there, putting your things, really coming and telling the real about it from both sides.
Mhm. You know, I think that you've brought light to the issue. I think if both sides, like you were saying, instead of utilizing the weapon, utilizing a sit down,
Right.
right? And a conversation. And where do we go wrong, right? Because when they say, a black, how does that saying go? Because if you have a speck in your eye, I'm gonna take that speck out,
Uh,
right? But how
mhm.
does that? You know what I'm talking about. I'm going all over the world with this. Don't get me started. And for the Bible folks, like don't come at me. But
Mhm.
you get what I'm saying.
I know
If
it's
you if you're blind in one eye
yeah.
and you go to I poke your eye and you poke my eye and then we're that so we both, no pun intended, right, are
Oh,
blind, right?
right. Right.
So like how do we combat this
Yes.
without any violence? Because you know that the hierarchy is, you have the animal kingdom and you have humans, right,
Mm,
with a brain. And
yeah.
I think that's where it all starts. And then, of course, mental health and all these
Mm,
other components. But the basic fundamental is that we've evolved from the animal kingdom to human
yeah.
kind with a brain, right?
Right.
That has to operate as such. And I don't think a lot of people are understanding that, right?
Right.
Because again, and it kept going into my head like all these downloads about like free will,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the free will to do as you please,
Right.
but then there's consequences behind it. But if you just come back down to the basic fundamentals,
Mm-hmm.
right? From being out in the cave or wherever, right? When we first
Right.
started to evolve. And then it's like we're regressing back to
Mm-hmm.
that caveman mentality.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And a lot of times at the end of the day, and I have from the youth, I've been in detention centers, juvenile detention centers, spoken in prisons from Chicago to New York to Jersey to Florida, you name it, I've been, but the dynamic is still the same. A lot of times it's all from something that was stemmed from that was never ever addressed, and trauma fuels and then sometimes just want to be heard, just want somebody that you feel understood. You get what I'm saying? You can't, and that's one thing, I never go to no kid. And one thing I was told, when I the first time they said, man, you don't know my story, you don't know what I've been through. I'm like, okay, but you don't know my story, you don't know what I've been through. You get what I'm saying? You can't never judge a book by its cover, but more of these people in those roles more of these supposed to be OGs or whatever, go out here and teach them, something that's going to elevate. You know what I mean? Teach them how to, if you make, how you invest that money, how to become your own boss. You get what I'm saying? It's
Mm-hmm.
other skills that this life taught me that I'm going to teach the younger ones for me. And that's what I like about being a credible messenger, because I was able to travel in a vehicle with, for me being a gangster disciple to Shorty Bible, who everyone knows, gangster disciple Larry Hoover, to Melvin Farmer, A. Trey Cripps, Ayatollah Marv, the Pyrus. You had Ruben Sedonia. You had Jackie Montanez, one of the youngest women to be sentenced to life as a juvenile, and with for killing two Latin King. All of us were in a vehicle, traveled from state to state, and the stories and the wit and the stuff that was all shared, and it was one common denominator, and that's what it was: unaddressed trauma, which, like you said, turns into pain sometimes, or it turns into wanting to do something that you thought was cool or get you more credit, because who you really were you didn't think was that great, so let me try to do this. You have either spectrum. But it
Right.
was powerful when we can go into them schools, when we can go into these neighborhoods, and they all these youth is saying, you got Bloods, you got and they together, and they spread, and it breaks that whole stereotype.
Mm.
And that's what I want to show. I'm from O Block. It's not somewhere that's just old to say I know what it's like to be there and to feel hopeless and to just go back, just left there to do an event and to meet kids that I know what it's like. You get what I'm
Mm.
saying? And that I'm not trying to go back. No, I'm trying to go back and show them that I came from here.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can do it, you can too. And I'm not somebody you just gonna see once. No, I'm gonna show up. And that's what you gotta do.
Yeah. And I hope that and pray that folks will heed to our conversation and actually go back to the communities
Yes.
and speak, right?
Yeah.
Um and which I'm learning so much. Like when you were saying credible messenger, a mentor. Can you tell the audience what a credible messenger is? And
So,
okay.
to find out the history of it, I'll tell you, because I always believe, do your research. So, Clinton Lacey, that's ClintonLacey, Clinton Lacey, and he founded the CM3 Credible Messengers with Coach Ruben Sedonia. And so, I am a credible messenger under that model. And what a credible messenger is someone from shared life experiences, whether it be from a former gang member, former what will be looked at as a problem to society, but you turn your life around in a way to where you're making an impact, showing we promote prevention before detention. We're trying to prevent our youth from ending up in prison. We're preventing gun violence. Coach Ruben has the Gloves Up, Guns Down movement. You can look that up. The RUE camp, that's RUE camp, Gloves Up, Guns Down. I always talk about him, Louis Cato. Louis Cato was like me, abandoned. He had a hard life, left. He was fighting on the road to, ended up being, could have went the other way, but he became a part of Coach Ruben, the program. And now if you look him up, he's traveled to Africa, he's traveled to, was in the Olympics, he's a professional fighter now. And that came from him coming, boxing, taking that anger, turning that trauma into a way to discipline him, in a way to use that in a good way, to be able to come to mentorship classes where he got to sit and hear from real life credible messenger mentors. He got to really have people that were there. And we also, one thing we did is we used them to go back and share their stories. And that's what a credible messenger mentor is from the team that I belong to. and that's what we promote. And I'm proud to represent for that because it gives a way for me to come back and get change the narrative.
Mm. How does have you, I guess, added like the thought process, right? The brain and how the brain operates in regards to if something bad comes to your mind, how do you deflect? How do you say, you know what? I'm going to get rid of that bad thought. I'm going to turn this into a positive thought. How
Hmm.
do you guys start with the mental, like in the beginning before the um, catastrophe happens or potential catastrophe happens?
Hmm. A lot of time we if we get them in that state, then yes, the main thing with a lot of the kids and the youth that we're assigned to, it's at different stages. Some of them are in a single family home, some of them are wards of the state. It
Mm,
just depends on the dynamic. But first we start off with, you have to learn as a mentor when is the time to deliver a message and mentor, and when you have to listen. You get what I'm
mhm,
saying? So we have to first, you have to develop that type of, it's not a friendship, but that type of respect. So it
mhm,
takes, because a lot of times, a lot of the kids that we work with are in these situations, they've been let down. Somebody show up, or you just somebody coming in here trying to talk to me because you have to. You get what I'm saying? So we have to address the trust. We have to build that trust and rapport. And how we do that, that takes time, right? So
mhm,
how we do it is different activities that show a way of tackling that trauma,
mhm.
tackling those issues in a way where they don't feel like you're just counseling them. So it takes training, and luckily for me, and I do use a lot, I do have a background. One of my second degrees is in mental health and social work, and that comes in handy.
Yeah, that really helps. My apologies. um, so, how would school or how can schools, right, and organizations get ahead of violence before it erupts? Proactive and not being reactive.
A lot. Well, I know in Orlando, and I always talk about Florida because Credible Messenger Mentors, actually, Mayor Jerry Deming is the first mayor that ever had Credible Messengers on his mayor's task force. So we were able to go, we go into schools. And you don't have to be a credible messenger. You can be someone that is a person that is, you want to be a mentor. I started off way before I knew about a credible messenger. I went into the schools with the guidance counselor. They always have a dynamic of kids that they deem as at risk. What they do is, we have programs, though, as mentors. We go in and we'll do programs with the after school program. We go in, you can go in and do a program every month, represents something different. So you can get involved with the local community center, host events with your local churches, give an element to where you can do these type of, like, gloves up, guns down. We have mics up, guns down, using music. We have fashion, giving them different elements that you can get through to them and express and be able to. Don't just say you want to be a mentor unless you're going to be prepared to show up and do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Just once a year at Christmas time, when you want to go through the neighborhood and give out presents to feel like you did something,
Mm,
or Thanksgiving when you want to give out a free meal. No, show up January, February, March, April. You get what I'm saying? You
mm-hmm.
have to show up for them, because a lot of times they had enough people to come in and out. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure. Definitely consistency, and consistency does help gain their trust and respect at the same time. But definitely consistency. So what's something you've seen work on the ground to break the cycle?
The these the these so the community ones that are looked up to, the OGs, the
Okay.
rappers, the local singers, those ones that are being idled and looked up to when
Mm,
they come back into these neighborhoods and actually are the ones that are saying, do this or support, it that makes a world of difference,
mhm,
because those are people that can relate. You don't know how powerful it is if more of these artists take the time out to go back to their neighborhoods or go back to other neighborhoods within where they came from. You know what I'm saying? Just take a minute. If you're a designer and you into fashion, when's the last time you went into a housing project and put on a fashion show?
mhm.
You as an artist went into one of these and put on a free concert. Just take the time to go back and give them hope, give them something to look forward to. That's what Coach Ruben did, being able to
Mm,
bring kids from these lower poverty area to meet Floyd Mayweather, when they saw him to meet Johnny Dane, and they get to see the man that's known for the bling. Those are opportunity. Him taking groups of these kids out of the inner city, taking them. We took them to New York to
yeah,
see places outside of where they're from. You know what I'm saying? I
yeah,
think of Mr. David, who turned his entire land, he calls it hoods to the woods, taking them into the atmosphere of nature, quiet animal. You would never be amazed to know what it would do to a young person or that troubled kid if you take them out of that environment and show them something different, give them something to fight for.
yeah. No, I totally agree. What's one thing you would suggest, or say, for instance, you would love to do, um, to have it to be a permanent thing, right? Where kids can see this every day. What's one thing you would do?
One thing I would do they could see every day is I definitely would just be that voice. I be that voice and I use social media to do that. And with them, just to have an outlet, to have a resource, like just to get myself out there, which I do, to let them know if you need encouragement, you could come to me, you can come to my page, you can reach out to me. I'm here. It's an element to where you can be encouraged. If you need to be lifted up, is to be able to be that resource, to be that voice. And for me, I do that through social media.
And you would recommend to other podcasters or media folks to do the same?
To do the same, because that's where if you think about it, even adults, I see it's more adults doing TikToks than kids. You know what I mean?
Right?
To watch, I mean, let's really think about it. You don't even need cable. You just need internet. You
Mm-hmm.
go on Instagram and see the next hottest this. You can go on TikTok. They gonna go there before they go to the news. You
True.
go to social media. And it's accessible. It don't matter if you homeless, got a home, if you in prison or not. Everybody got access to social media.
Right?
That's just the truth. So it's free marketing. So I mean, why not utilize it in a good way? You can get on there and motivate. You can get on there and talk about real life
Mm-hmm.
situations. Get on there and teach. You can use it because it's something that no matter what dynamic, it can be accessed. And that's just my opinion.
So true. Thanks so much, King. I appreciate. God bless you as well. And he said, "Thank, excellent questions." Okay, so moving on, right? Um, what's the difference between youth versus empowering them? Excuse me, saving youth versus empowering them, and why is the distinction critical?
That's a great question. My thing, saving the youth, you can feel like I saved you by just me telling you, you know what, Annette, you did good today. You could have been on the verge of going home and wanting to do something else. You could feel like I saved you, correct? However, empowering is implanting something in you. It's not just it's being there, it's being able to show you things within yourself that you may not see. being able to go through that journey with you. It's consistently pouring into you, consistently building you up. That
Mm,
even if I'm not there to temporarily save you, I've empowered you with the tools that you need to succeed and stand on your own.
mm. Well said, ma'am. And so, when a young person, right, is surrounded by all this chaos every day,
Mhm.
how do we help them believe, right, peace is possible?
You have to find that way to shine that light in that
Mm,
dark situation. And every situation is different, but there is always a way. Because I remember as a child going through all of this hell and not knowing why, not understanding why. But I can remember in each aspect of that, I can remember at least one individual. For me,
mhm,
I always tell this story, and for some, it's like, how could you tell that? Because it's a great example. I didn't know what a menstrual cycle was. My mom went to prison. I was 7. So I never had that talk. I never had anyone to talk to me about womanhood. So when I did, I remember going through all this and no one knew what was being done to me, not to be so graphic. So I didn't know. So I was scared. I thought that I went to school one day and all this is happening. I didn't know, and I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just stuffing toilet tissue and not in my underwear, and I'm not knowing what's going on. And I can remember sitting in the bathroom and just breaking out because I felt like,
mm,
why? Like what is going, I didn't know. I was scared. I was 9 years old. I didn't know. And I remember I ran out of tissue and I was so embarrassed. I ran to and it was a nurse. In that one moment, I can remember, and I'll never forget her name, Maureen Robinson. And I am 44 years old, young, and I was
mm,
9 years old. And I remember Nurse Maureen Robinson sitting down with me, and she was the one that told me what was happening. She was the one that gave
mm,
me clear little bag, and it had some pads in there. It had a little lotion, some stuff for my hand, and she told me, you keep this around. It was a little clear little purse. And that moment right there for me was a moment of light in a dark place. Because yeah, she was telling me, but she didn't know what I was going back to being, having to have someone do to me. But it was a light, and it stuck with me because right to this day, I do a Purses for a Purpose campaign every year, and I give
mm,
purses to young girls at different schools where I'm at every year. And that is something that was birthed out of a tragic, tragic situation. But she was my light. So
mm.
the way to be that light, it's always the way.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That just gave me chills. It's That's very powerful, and shout out to Nurse Maureen. Wow.
And
Oh my goodness. Yeah, yeah. You know, oh, celebrity interviewer said it. Man, Goddess Jenkins, you got that G, and educated and faithful equals unstoppable. Yes, I totally
thank
agree with you, King.
you. Thank
Oh my goodness.
thank
Yeah, and so um for many youth, right, gangs are about belonging, like
yeah,
you said earlier, not just violence. How do we replicate that sense of family without the cost?
show up. I mean, it's it's really that simple. It's just showing all they're there.
Yeah.
No matter where, no matter what time of day I was outside, they were there. They were there to
Wow.
welcome. If I was hungry, they were there to say, "Hey, you need something to eat, shorty?" They were there to feed me. They were
Mm,
there. They were there. So when you're these community elements, if you're these community leaders or community organizations or churches,
mhm,
because I really have a lot of respect for the ones that are out in these streets, having street ministries, being the ones where I could remember coming up and you had you can go to if you needed a meal, not just
mm,
one time a day. You know what I mean? But just you have to have those elements, of showing up, being available. A lot of times, the only time some of these kids, I was one, only 8, was in school because you got breakfast and lunch.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't any place to go to that was positive in the hood if you was so, but they were there to be like, okay, what you need. So you gotta have elements where you provide a element of I'm here.
Mm,
That you have to do.
so true. Um, if you could speak to a 14-year-old considering gang life, not to scare them, but to truly see them, what would you say?
Don't look at the temporary benefits from them. Look at it from what can this do? What is this gonna do for me long term? You have to look at it that way. Temporarily, don't just look at it like because it's going to cost you to get that money, it's going to cost you to get that respect. But if you really sit back, I'm going to say, and observe, they get a little bit more. Really see what you're getting into. That's important because a lot of times just what you see on the outside temporarily ain't really what you want in the end. You know what I mean? So I would really say really look at what you're getting into before you jump into it because everything got a cost.
Do you know of like a hotline number or somewhere kids the youth can call? Because I mean everybody knows if it's emergency 911 or 411 for information. But is there like a hotline number that can be provided for the youth to call at any given time just for um an ear? You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to like.
I know exactly what you mean, and that's why I laugh because it's sad. No, I don't know a hotline number, but I do know I give out my number proudly because I don't care. I tell my kid I have kids, mentees all over from Florida, I global. I'm always available. You can call me 803-440-6815. You can hit me up on social media, and if I'm not where you're at, I will connect you with there's always a mentor. I will find a source that can be able to be there. And until then, if I have to be the ear to listen, then I will. Because honestly, no, I don't know a hotline. And it's sad that can be reached by any youth that's in need of a ear to listen because I'm gonna say that because I don't feel like just anyone should be able to talk to these children when they're in that state. Because I
Mhm.
believe they really need to be speaking to people that really can give them that real inspiration and advice and covering that they need. And you have to have those shared life experiences to be able to do that.
Well, I think that they heard us. I think that we should develop a hotline number in general for the folks that professionals, for people that are experienced
Absolutely.
in the field, boots on the ground, and have been in these type of environments. Because that's what I'm thinking. I mean, that's great that we have the social media, but maybe we could like really, really hone our skills and provide the
Uh,
time to talk
yeah.
outreach, right?
Yes, to do outreach. Absolutely. A resource line, a hotline just to dial in. That would be great. And there's enough of us out there. So
Mm-hmm.
that could be a call to action. We have all these states, and there's enough, I know, phenomenal um, people out there, leaders who are, and come together and make it happen because we have to, because that's it's going to take to change. It really is. And it's getting worse and worse. It really is.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, everyone that's listening, and maybe you could go back to your group and the folks that you know and say, hey, maybe we should create a hotline number, or maybe like for instance, if there's something that you could share with myself and other podcasters and the media to announce, like say, hey, you can call this number, you can get on such and
Right.
such website, you can get on, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because if a centralized system where we're all working together in tandem to help each other um, provide inspiration, positivity to the youth and just people in general,
Absolutely.
because we're not, I'm not a superhero. I mean, we still have
Okay.
feelings. Well,
Yeah.
Superman had feelings too, but you know what I mean.
I know.
Yeah, so definitely. Wow. I know I'm probably going over, but we're gonna go to a fun kind of fun round.
Okay.
So crown and unfiltered. It's this or that. I think I already know the answer to this, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask: heels or sneakers?
No, you don't, cause sneakers, honey.
Sneakers.
Sneakers always win. I could bling them out too. Sneakers.
Okay, speaking to youth or speaking to Congress?
Speaking of youth, any day.
I know that's right. Braille textures or bold prints?
Braille textures.
Okay. Vision board or vibe check?
I'm gonna say vision board.
Okay.
Hmm.
Finish the sentence. The world would be better if we just blank.
The world would be better if we would just shine our own life and utilize our gifts.
Yes, ma'am. Um, the streets don't love you like blank.
The streets don't love you more than you should love yourself.
Mm. When I wear my crown, I feel.
When I wear my crown, I feel reminded of the fact that I was spared by grace.
Mm. Wow. I feel like we're doing ping pong here. Legacy. If your legacy could be summed up in one sentence, what would it be?
Wow. If my legacy could be summed up in one sentence, it would be never let anyone dim your light.
Mm, I love that. All right, 60-second mic drop. You've got the world, excuse me, you've got the whole world's attention for 60 seconds. What's your message?
Take the time to always try to look at a person from the inside, not from the outer side, because at the end of the day, true beauty lies within.
Mm, I love it. And how was your experience at NNO 360?
I loved it. You are the best. I think you are the first that have asked me some really, really, really questions that made me be like, hold on, let me think about that a little bit. So I like that. I had an amazing time. Thank you for having me, and thanks to everyone who took the time to listen.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Before you go, I want to show everyone your Facebook. I think folks can reach you there, right? You're mostly on Facebook.
Yes,
So let me go ahead and share my screen kind of tongue twister real quick. So this is her Facebook. And you can reach her at Goddess NewWay Jenkins, right?
correct.
And and also Mystique Fashions.
Correct. That's my group page. I am on Instagram from my Instagram. I love y'all. Really, I do. It's just the Instagram software is not always accessible, but I do. I am on Instagram. So you can always hit me up on there as well. I do get to y'all on Instagram.
Okay. Yeah, I figured I pull up the Facebook because that's
The
where you
face
are
is
mostly.
definitely where you gonna, yes, you can always catch me on Facebook a lot quicker. So yes, that was great.
And are there any like events or anything that could you give a little spotlight to the event that you just attended?
Of course. So this was my second year anniversary of my nonprofit organization, which is Queens Raising Queens, and I hold a survivors recognition luncheon. Every year, I'm blessed at Harold Washington College, which is a historical college in Chicago, Illinois. I honor veterans, active duty military, National Guard members who are survivors and wrongfully convicted this year at Harold Washington College. And The next day, we participate in a survivor's walk. And we also have a community service project that we do where it's called Feed the Hood. And we go into a housing project utilizing music, spoken word, and we share our real life stories and provide physical food, also our real life stories to feed them and to give them a day of kind of fun in the community. So that's what I just did, and it was our second year, and it was amazing. So I'm looking forward to next year.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. And is there any other events or anything coming up on the?
Definitely always follow my page because I'm always doing something. So, October, if you're here in Columbia, South Carolina, or surrounding areas, I have an event coming up on October the 11th. It is a Through Pain Came Strength, Fight to Thrive. It's a celebration, a recognition event we're doing here. And October, guys, that's our month. I am going to LA. And for LA Fashion Week, October 24th through October 26th, I will be there. So, debuting our Crown and Color collection. So, I'm excited about that. So, those are my. Oh, and I'm getting married, y'all.
Right? I know.
On
Yay!
Sunday. Yay! I'm getting married to my best friend, my king. We're getting married September 21st. So, that's an event, too. It's a whole party going on. So, that's what I got coming up.
Well, congratulations, ma'am. And thank you so much for giving, you're sharing your time because you
For
could be anywhere.
Of Man, it's my pleasure. I thank you for having me. Like I said, I really appreciate it. It was an honor getting to know you, and I look forward to coming back again in
Yes.
20.
We'll definitely have you on again so we can talk more about the fashion week and such. And I can't wait. And thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
well, with that being said, let's continue to support the Unity for Social Justice. Let's free Monster Yo, Prentice Banks, Jay Burton, and all our brothers and sisters that are in need of our support.
For
This
sure.
has been a broadcast of Showing Love full circle between Miss Goddess NewWay Jenkins, Mrs. and Annette at In the Know 360. God bless and be safe out there. Much love. Mwah. Salute.
Bye.
Bye.
And don't forget to tap in and watch the new film documentary. It's really a movement called Put the Guns Down, A World Epidemic, produced by Ice-T and directed by Harry C. Carney Sr., director of the film documentary Put the Guns Down, A World Epidemic. And if you guys haven't tapped in yet, please, please, please be sure to go on Apple TV, Prime Video, Google TV. Make sure that you check out the film, okay? Put the Guns Down, an world epidemic. And we need to work together for this movement. So I'll see you tonight. Annette, warm-hearted warrior diva, at In the Know 360. Love you guys. Mwah.